Can AI lower your overhead? We're going to find out with today's amazing special guest, Larry Levine.
Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast, where we make AI simple, practical, and accessible for small business owners and leaders. Forget the complicated tech talk or expensive consultants. This is where you'll learn how to implement AI strategies that are easy to understand and can make a big impact for your business. The Artificial Intelligence Podcast is brought to you by Fraction AIO, the trusted partner for AI digital transformation. At Fraction AIO, we help small and medium-sized businesses boost revenue by eliminating time-wasting, non-revenue generating tasks that frustrate your team. With our custom AI bots, tools, and automations, we make it easy to shift your team's focus to the tasks that matter most, driving growth and results. We guide you through a smooth, seamless transition to AI, ensuring you avoid costly mistakes and invest in the tools that truly deliver value. Don't get left behind. Let Fraction AIO help you stay ahead in today's AI-driven world. Learn more and get started at fractionaio.com.
I'm so excited to have you here today, Larry, because having worked on a lot of projects, I've worked in two different worlds. I come from the world of entrepreneurship, which is you don't spend money until you make it. And then I've also worked for startups where it's someone else's money. So you just spend like crazy, right? It's like it's government work. It's not our money, so let's spend it. So I've been at both ends of the spectrum. I'd love to start with just from at the beginning, your core mindset of what is cost reduction all about? And what are like the first places to look for efficiencies? Just really big picture, how you got passionate or interested in this area.
Sure. Thanks for inviting me, Jonathan. So what is cost reduction? What is our cost reduction model? So we help businesses reduce their indirect vendor overcharges. That was a mouthful. So what is indirect vendor? So direct vendor first are those vendors specifically supplying parts and pieces to your top line product. If you're a restaurant, it's food, it's staff, it's chairs, it's tables. If you're an automobile manufacturer, it's metal, plastic, leather, oil. But both of those businesses have indirect vendors they work with for their telecom, for their utilities, their waste, their insurance, their property tax, none of which the end user takes direct advantage of, but is necessary to support the business. Most businesses take those charges from those vendors as fixed costs, as non-negotiable. They take the rates from the telecom vendor, from the utility vendor, from the waste vendor as non-negotiable. So in some cases, if the vendor is charging you, say, $1,000 a month for you to pick up your waste, some businesses, can we reduce that by 5 or 10% down to $900 per month? And the waste vendor is more than usual, more than happy to reduce it to $900 a month because their cost level is probably closer to $300 or $400. So they're still getting a large benefit from that, large margin. So what we do is we come in there. We have industry experts who work at the waste vendor, the telecom vendor. They have insurance background. They've worked with property tax for years, and we support about probably 12 categories. They know how to negotiate with these vendors. We've created a cost level benchmark database, which is geography specific, SKU specific, frequency specific, waste bin size specific. And we're able to work with your vendors and negotiate those down on average 30 to 40%. In some cases, as much as 75% on a contingency basis. So even if we can't reduce it, if for some reason you already have the best prices, you were able to negotiate it down, or they offered you the best rate out the door, or the rates are fixed in your market, sometimes that's the case. There's no fee from us. And you walk away with peace of mind that you weren't overspending. But if we do reduce your spend from, let's say you reduce it to $900, we reduce it to $500, saving you an additional $400 in that example, we'll share in that savings 50-50 for 3 years or 5 years.
It's really interesting because, like I said, I've seen so many people approach businesses and they negotiate in certain areas and not in other areas. And this is very interesting because
Sure.
that is absolutely a mindset. And I've seen that, especially when it's like there's a lot of excitement, people will jump in, and it's not specifically indirect spending, but they're still jumping in on, actually, you know what it is indirect spending? As I think about it, it's sometimes they're buying a tool that doesn't directly affect their main product. So it's like helping backend. For example, some of the stuff in the AI space is AI note taking or AI summaries of your internal meetings. That doesn't affect the actual product, where they're like trying to add AI tracking tools. And so they're jumping in all of these tools that are really expensive. And sometimes they see the enterprise prices and it's wild. So I've got to start charging these prices. And sometimes the markup, like I've seen some stuff, some tools, I don't want to get too specific in names where the markup's 99%.
Right.
So it's like it costs them $1, they charge 100. And it's like, golly, that's some sweet margin. And what we're seeing a lot of now is this, we always have these cycles of excitement where people jump on all of these tools. And what I'm interested in is the mindset of cost reduction is very interesting to me, because every business kind of goes through a spending cycle and a really cut back cycle, like growing and shrinking to get to efficiency. And I see a lot right now of, this is a challenge a lot of my listeners face, which is where the board of directors tells the CEO, we need AI. And the CEO goes, what do you mean? And they go, we don't know what we mean, but we know we want it. And then they go, what should it cost? And there's this idea that more expensive equals better. And they buy these massive tools and the expensive software, and they go to the CTO, goes, you have to use this. CTO goes, don't need it, can't use it. He goes, I already signed a contract, so you have to. You have to find a way to justify this so I don't get in trouble with the board. You go through that, and then not only do you have to use it, you now have to maintain it. There's an element of maintaining it. So now it's server costs and there's other costs. So I want to get into, and this is what I'm really passionate about, I'm really interested in your expertise, is this mindset of how can we be efficient from the beginning? So imagine someone is starting a new business before they sign all these contracts. What should they be thinking about? What causes people to just assume the price for some things and some things are negotiable? And, or maybe how do you even know what's negotiable and not negotiable? Like, I'd love to get into some of that mindset stuff or some of that.
Great question. So you don't know, but we're suggesting our clients go into the relationship with the mindset that it is negotiable and discover during the process, maybe that it's not negotiable. One of my clients right now, and give you dozens of examples, one of my clients right now was being charged several $100,000 a year for their electricity. I don't go too much into who they are, but they felt that was a lot of money. And they was negotiating. They said, let's try to negotiate this. They were negotiating with a utility vendor for months to try to get it lowered, and they were unable to. It turns out they were in a fixed energy market, and you can't. However, we got in there and discovered that their rate classification could be changed if you had the right words, if you had the insider knowledge to ask the right people inside to modify the rate. It turns out that this last month, we reduced their electricity by over $10,000 for the month. Over the year, it won't be $1 million. It won't be $100,000 for the year, because there were some there were just some cheaper months, but they went in with the right mindset, but weren't able to do. Sometimes you go in with the right mindset and you're with the intent to negotiate, and you're able to negotiate. But what are you going to negotiate to where? So your waste vendor may, in fact, you may be in a fixed waste market, and the rate is the rate, but are you getting the right pickup frequency? Are you getting the right? Are you waiting for the bin to be full before you get it picked up? So there may be ways to modify it, but in general, go in and then with the mindset that it's negotiable. And if it's not negotiable, it may still be negotiable, because you don't have necessarily the insider knowledge to get it to negotiate down, again, from what to where. My very first client, we were able to negotiate his waste expenses down 76%. When we told him that, he said, I saved him some $6,000 per month across multiple sites. When we told him that, he said, I don't look at my invoices, I just pay them. And in retrospect, and not on that phone call, but in retrospect, I asked, what would you look for? Are you an industry insider? Do you have your contract in front of you? Do you know what waste invalid charges are? Contamination charges, fuel surcharges, COVID surcharges still, alternate drop-off sites. And would you know what to look for? And do you know what you would even negotiate down to? Because you don't have that benchmark, that cost level benchmark database. Most businesses pay a lot of attention to the top line. You're building cars, you're serving food at your restaurant, you're building your widgets. You know what goes into that. And if you want to increase margins, you try to negotiate better rates with your supply vendors, maybe better optimize your labor. And again, take for granted that the other expenses, the telecom, utilities, waste, insurance, your shipping expenses, your property tax expenses, your leased copiers, those are the rates of the race. And in fact, probably not.
I saw something recently, which is that a large number of the generation younger than me can't even say hello on the phone. We have this, right? Like that people order a pizza by an app because they're afraid to talk to someone on the phone, as though it's going to become an awkward conversation. You don't sound smart enough to order a pizza. That's not going to happen. So there's this fear of confrontation is now shifted into a fear of communication. So a lot of people,
What's going to happen?
that's what
You
I'm,
don't get your pizza. Well, they'll eventually figure out how to get your pizza. You're not going to make a doctor's appointment. You'll get your doctor's appointment made. You're not going to lose your services.
but
They're not going to increase the menu.
what is happening is that we have this, like now there's like touchless delivery, like you can order food, but you never have to see the person, which is so wild to me. It's, oh my God, I saw a delivery person unclean. Like that's what it feels like to me. It's so wild that you can't look because you can't look at the person and give them a tip. Like what is going on? But for people that come from there who are like, I don't want to get on the phone. I don't want to talk to someone. How can they overcome that fear? Or exactly like you're saying, I think there's this fear of either social awkwardness or that like they're going to charge you double for the pizza because now you've annoyed them or that something will happen. Like
Now,
you ever had-
they put a human in as part of the interaction. You got to pay the human.
yeah.
And just briefly, you reminded me, I saw a video recently of an AI tool making a reservation at a restaurant to another AI tool. I don't know, have you seen this video? I can send it to
Oh,
you. Yeah. They quickly discovered that they were both AI agents and went into a separate AI language. Sounded like a modem talking, two modems talking to each other. So that's what it comes down to.
so exactly that. It's that everyone says to me like, oh, we want to have AI do all of our phone calls. I was like, you lose so much. You lose the nuance, you lose the notification. Like the one thing I don't want AI to solve is communication. Like I don't want an AI to host my podcast. That's not very fun. Where's the value in that for anyone? No one wants to talk to an AI on the phone. No one wants to talk to AI customer support. How do you approach when you're approaching a negotiation? Is it actually combative? Is it actually adversarial? Or is there a different mindset people can go to overcome just because they're so afraid of talking to each other? I can't make it as a reservation. I need an AI to do that, which I can handle that. That's too much for me. Like as much as I like technology, like I can order a pizza, which I didn't realize was an edge skill or an elite skill, but it's becoming that. So how can people approach it with the mindset of this is a cooperative thing or this person wants to work with me, I want to work with them? Because you see in the movie where you say to someone, I want a lower price, well, you know what, then we're not picking up your trash. There's this fear of that happening, which I don't think is very realistic, but let's talk through that a little bit.
I think just get over yourself and make the phone call. If you make a phone call to a dentist appointment, you make a phone call to a pizza, you make a phone call to renegotiate your waste expenses. Are the vendors going to be adversarial? Probably not. They may not be very cooperative. They may very well say, you're on the best rate, you're on the best phone plan, I can't do anything for you. And that may be true. If you don't have the insider knowledge, you may not know what to say, what records to ask for to verify that, in fact, you are, in fact, on the best calling plan available. I'm not going to give away too much about how we work, but most vendors know what we're attempting to do, and they're not adversarial, but they're not very cooperative either. And I think in the long term, there's going to be more AI as part of that interaction, whether it's on our side and or their side. But today, that is very much mostly a human to human. But again, they're not. Some vendors are quick to do it because they know they have to. They need to work on behalf of their client. They know in most cases, there's alternatives. If it's not waste vendor A, it's waste vendor B. If it's not AT&T, there's Verizon available. Utility companies, you really don't have much of a say with the utility company because it's their wires, it's their gas pipes. In regulated markets and deregulated markets, they're happy to provide quotes because they know in all those circumstances, they know there are other options available. And they'd rather keep you at a lower rate than lose you to another vendor altogether. But more often than not, whether it's with us or with you, a client directly, as I mentioned before, with that large client with the several $100,000 your electricity charges, they are slow to respond, especially if you don't know what to ask. But just get on the phone and ask. And if you don't know what to ask, you'll eventually figure it out. If you have the time, you're probably spending a lot of time with your top line, with your restaurant, building your cars, building your widgets, and your staff may not have the time or experience to do it, to make those phone calls. So that's where I'm not trying to sell our service necessarily. You do what you know to do. By way of example, if your business has legal expenses, you call a lawyer. You're not going to go to court by yourself. If you need a bookkeeper, you hire a bookkeeper. If you have social media needs, you hire a social media agency. If you need to find out, if you work your way through what the landscape of AI is, you find somebody that's an expert in AI rather than spending hundreds of $1,000s on the wrong tool, which is, I think, the example you were saying before. Some tools are easier than others, less expensive than others, and more obvious. The note-taking tools, for example. I was reading an example last night of how some doctor's offices are moving from 15 patients to as much as 45 patients per day, but they still have, because of decreased reimbursement, they need that many more patients to be able to pay their own bills. But that has caused them to reduce the number of breaks, increase the number of breaks from 15 breaks between clients to 45 breaks between clients, but the length of break has decreased. And they can't spend, their break is now less than 2 minutes per client, but they have 5 minutes of note taking. How do they do that? With an AI note-taking tool. So there's some places that it's very obvious to do that, to implement an AI, but is it so obvious to implement AI on the sending or receiving end of a negotiation? We will see.
I think one of the things that's interesting is that one of the lessons that I learned early on is it's a lot easier to save a dollar than make a dollar. But as companies get larger, especially startups or have outside investment or large amounts of money, there's so many moving parts. You're so busy, like you said, focusing on top line revenue. Oh, I just pay all the invoices, that you don't realize. There was a recent case, I forget it was, where someone had sent, it was to one of the big tech companies, just Google or Facebook. They'd sent them hundreds of millions of dollars in fake invoices and they all been paid. And it's like, it shouldn't work, but it does. Like, you hear about those pretty often. So there is this mindset of, I'm just looking at the top, like I'm just looking at where we're going rather than reducing costs. But it's like generating sales is a lot harder, right? Generating a sale, generating customers, selling a car is a lot harder than saving $10 per car, saving $100 per month or $100 per day. So I think this is a really important mindset. I think that's why I want to have you on the show today, is really remind people that while AI is exciting and while technology is exciting, that every business has the same foundational needs. I use internet. We're using internet right now, right? Using power right now. Using water right now. I went to the bathroom before the show. Like, all these other expenses are part of it. And it's really important to put these things together and to realize that they're just as important. It's a lot easier to lower your overhead, and there are a lot more opportunities, because usually when you just think, oh, maybe I can get this one part a little bit cheaper, we often think the only way to get a discount is by ordering larger quantities. And then you end up with 20,000 screws when you'll need 1,000, because you're like, this is how much money I saved. Is that how much money you saved or how much money you spent? Like, you spent 5 times more than your budget.
You have 9,000 extra screws. Yeah. So I did another story, a 20 location restaurant group. We have one financial analyst that is responsible for all the contracts and all the bill paying. And certainly she's paying a lot of attention to the price of tomatoes across all these locations. And I don't know how much tomatoes cost, but if she feels it's expensive, she's paying a lot of time and attention to the tomato price, but just pays the $1,000 a month per site waste bill. There's a lot of margin there, but she doesn't have the time because she's being directed to pay attention to the tomatoes, to the rest of the menu. And that's true everywhere.
It reminds you that, like, no one cares about garbage collection until they go on strike.
Exactly.
And then suddenly the whole city cares. It doesn't take that long for everyone to notice when no one's picking up the trash. It only takes a couple of days. And then you realize how important it is. And that's exactly it, is that there are so many things. I think it's so fascinating that we use as like tools and technologies, and we don't think. And it's this, I think a lot of it is just, it's either I don't have time to look at it. I think there's a lot of it is like, I don't want to get on the phone and have them go, no, of course, you know what I mean? And it's like, I found out this lesson early on when I was just like, even if you just say, is there a better rate? Am I on the right plan? Because I've seen people on like their cell phone plan from 20 years ago. They've never changed it. And your plan doesn't include texting, or they charge you it used to be a quarter a text to send a text messages, which is insane now. But I remember that late 90s when it was like, you get 10 text messages a month and you'd pay for minutes, and it's so different. And if you don't change, they never tell you there's a better plan.
So we're coming into this conversation with the mindset that you should get the best rate possible, but you may need the best rate possible. You may be able, with that 10% off the cost of waste, may across your 50 sites, may turn out to be tens of thousands of dollars, which is maybe very significant to you. That's important. We may be able to do better for you, but ask that and we'll deal with the rest later.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think that's the lesson I've taken from today is you should at least ask. Like one of the lessons I learned, or no, one of my friends is I'm in a business where you get paid a commission for referrals a lot. He goes, "Oh, I always ask if they'll give me a higher commission."
Yeah.
And sometimes they say no, but a lot of times they say yes. And I was like, "What do you put in the message?" He goes, "That's the whole message. Can you give me a higher rate?" And the number of huge companies that have said yes to me is like wild because you think they're the ones who are like, because the person you're talking to doesn't care. Is they're not the owner of the company. Bigger companies, it's just someone who's in an office somewhere. They go, yeah, okay.
The fear is that you may stop giving them referrals because there's not enough. I have the philosophy when I accept referrals, I pay commission. I'd rather take 75% of a deal than 100% of no deal. So, yeah, that's probably true
Yeah.
of the businesses you're working with.
And that's all in email. If you just ask, and I was like, what? He goes, yeah, I go, how do you always have a higher commission? He goes, oh, I just ask. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. And that's such a critical lesson. It's like, how do you go learn? Just ask. And that's such a good lesson. So for people who are like, oh my gosh, I would love to lower my bills, but I don't have time for it. Where's the best place they can find you, connect you, see if maybe they're the right fit to work with you, Larry?
Appreciate that. Thank you. So my business name, I think you said in the beginning, is P3 Cost Analysts. Our website is costanalysts, analysts.com. You could watch our videos there. You could look for our landing pages. I have a landing page. I don't remember the website address of the landing page. Or you can give me a call, 410-205-2475. I'm also at levine@costanalysts.com.
Don't worry, everyone. I'll put that in the show notes and below the video on YouTube, so it's easy to find. Larry, thank you so much for being here for an amazing and intriguing episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next Monday with more tips and strategies on how to leverage AI to grow your business and achieve better results. In the meantime, if you're curious about how AI can boost your business's revenue, head over to artificialintelligencepod.com/calculator. Use our AI revenue calculator to discover the potential impact AI can have on your bottom line. It's quick, easy, and might just change the way you think about your business. While you're there, catch up on past episodes, leave a review, and check out our socials. If you enjoyed this episode, I've got 2 more that I think you're going to love. Click one of these videos to dive into more awesome content, and don't forget to subscribe for even more insights on using AI to grow your business. And I'll see you in the next one.